Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm delighted to be your virtual host for Interactions 2021 Forum Awards presentation, where we are recognizing outstanding leaders within the global development and humanitarian sectors. Today, we celebrate those in our community who've gone above and beyond, those who have committed to helping change the world we live in. The Julia Taft Outstanding Leadership Award honors distinguished leaders in our community whose career, whose vision have transcended their own organizations by raising the influence and profile of the U.S. NGO sector. It celebrates the very best of our community's leadership. Every year, we select someone who has had a profound impact on the Interaction community and the direction of our work across hundreds of organizations. This year, it's really my pleasure to celebrate Carolyn Miles and all that she has done to advance Interaction members and the evolution of our community. As Interaction's board chair, Carolyn constantly looked at where we can increase the collective welfare, our accountability, and the clout of the Interaction community. Her career spans some 30 years, and it began with a car ride from the Manila airport to the city that changed her life, where she witnessed extreme poverty and saw how inequalities touch people's lives and so many children's futures. Wanting to make a difference for others, Carolyn then moved from the corporate sector to the NGO community, where she began her 22-year career at Save the Children in 1998. And by 2011, Carolyn became Save's first female president and CEO, eventually shifting the makeup of its board. As Interaction's board chair, Carolyn focused on a whole range of different areas, from the prevention of sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment by and of NGO workers. And she reignited our work on diversity and inclusion. And she looked for ways for Interaction member CEOs that they could advance a more rigorous approach to our advocacy and opened conversations about culture and power.
Thank you so much to Sam Worthington, Carrie Hessler-Radlett, and Abby Maxman for your leadership of Interaction and for including me in the forum this year. While I wish we were all in person, there with all my many friends and colleagues who are part of Interaction, we can't be quite yet. But that day is coming, and in the meantime, I am glad to be with you virtually. I am so honored to receive an award named for a woman whose life was dedicated to helping those who had very little, and especially when they had lost everything. Julia Taft was a woman unafraid to jump on a plane after an earthquake, a flood, in the midst of a famine, to put the power of her organization towards helping those who most needed it. Her work through both Republican and Democratic administrations was testament to the power of one person to drive help to so many, and an inspiration in times like today when there is just too much division, even when it comes to helping others. Her spirit lives on in so many of Interaction's members and in so many of you individually. Thank you for what you have done and are doing right now for the world, especially in the face of a global pandemic. As I reflected on what I wanted to say to this special audience, I kept coming back to a theme I think we felt all this year: a deep impatience on the issues of inequality that we have seen play out over and over again in 2020. Whether it is on the issue of inequality in the workforce or the boardroom, inequality of healthcare during this crisis, the unequal burden of COVID on Black and Brown people and women, or the current inequity of vaccine distribution here in this country and around the world. The issues of class, race, and status are still very much with us. I know many of you are addressing these issues every day, both inside your own organizations and communities and in the wider world. But I think we all have to make some new commitments to speed up our progress. It is just not acceptable that in this global pandemic, Indigenous Americans, Latinos, Blacks, and Pacific Islanders died of COVID at twice the rate of white and Asian Americans. And a similar dynamic played out across the globe, with deaths among the poorest in every country dying at higher rates. It is just not acceptable that women continue to bear the burden of childcare and their children's education versus men during this pandemic. In 2021, we can surely do better. It is not acceptable that only 7% of CEOs of the Fortune 500 are women, and even worse, only 5 are Black CEOs. The statistics on board leadership are even worse. I believe there are things each of you can do, starting with your own organizations. Is there diversity at all levels along race, ethnic, and gender identity lines? Who makes up your senior management team and board? Are you focused on diverse recruitment, development, and advancement? And in the work you do for the world's poorest people, are you focused on those that are most left behind? Are you doing all you can to give women and ethnic minorities a seat at the table? Is your organization focused on changing long-standing biases and pushing for equality across all aspects of life? This is hard work. I had the honor of doing this work during my 22 years at Save the Children. It is not often the fastest way to get things done or the way that ruffles the least feathers of those in power. It takes first a deep awareness of who your organization is, what you are doing, and how. It takes actually measuring progress against firm goals, and it takes rewarding people for meeting those goals, and perhaps asking those that are not making progress to step aside. And though I can say there has been progress in the organization where I gladly worked every day, I can also say there is still a long way to go championing equality, both inside the agency and in the work that Save the Children does. I'm pretty sure we can all say the same. So much more to do in making sure that every person, regardless of their background, color, gender identity, or ethnicity, actually has a chance to be their best and give their best. I know if Julia Taft were still with us, this is an issue she would have flung herself into. I guess in classic interaction style, there would have been a myriad of working groups, even then. I know she would be fighting for those who are falling most behind around the world, who are not getting the resources or chances they deserve, who lost out on care during this pandemic and always. In her name, I thank you again for this enormous honor, and I really, really hope to see you all soon in person at a future interaction event. Thank you.
Congratulations, Carolyn, and thank you for all the ways you have shaped our community. The Disability Inclusion Award recognizes organizations that have worked towards greater disability inclusion to integrate and mainstream people with disabilities into programs, activities, and operations. This year, we have 2 outstanding applications. FHI 360 and Madre were selected as co-recipients. FHI 360 has created multiple resources to support disability inclusion, and these include a disability inclusion one-on-one training for staff and partners, a disability inclusion toolkit for project design and a reasonable accommodation budgeting process, and a disability inclusion technical officer lodged in their headquarters. FHI 360 has also supported disability inclusion across multiple projects, and creating a new tool for USAID on the advancement of economic empowerment of women with disabilities, supporting a center for parents and information resources, and advancing disability inclusion with multiple disabled people organizations in the USAID Civil Society Media Project in Myanmar. Interaction congratulates Habtamu Buli, Disability Inclusion Technical Officer, and Elise Young, Senior Technical Advisor in Gender Equality and Social Inclusion, and all of you at FHI 360.
Hello, I'm Elise Young. I am the Senior Technical Advisor for the Gender, Equity, Equality, and Social Inclusion with FHI 360.
And I am a white, cis American woman who is wearing a navy blue sweater. I have white ceiling and walls and my closet in the background and a blue sheet on my bed.
Hello, I'm Habtamu Buli. I'm the Disability Inclusion Technical Officer at FHI 360 with the Gender, Equality, and Social Inclusion. I'm wearing a light blue shirt with a white background. I'm a Black man from Ethiopia. On behalf of FHI 360, we are very honored and humbled to receive this award. Many, many thanks to Interaction and to all those involved for this recognition. It is in large part due to the important work of our colleagues throughout the organization, including HR, leadership, and especially our project teams in multiple countries around the world. It is also a huge thanks to our many staff members with disabilities who have truly helped forge the way towards greater disability inclusion.
I'm going to continue speaking, and this has been a real learning journey for us. We have already had some amazing disability inclusion champions over the years. Our HR team has been doing this work tirelessly, and it's often not seen since they're providing reasonable accommodations for many people with non-apparent disabilities or who choose not to disclose. We have our U.S. business unit has been working on disability inclusion for many years, and we've learned a lot from them over the years. And then other staff members who, before we started this official journey with our Jessie team, who were already working on disability inclusion without much credit, getting much acknowledgement for it, and that we've been learning from since then. But for our Jessie team, we had this big awakening moment about 4 years ago. We were in South Africa at USAID, helping USAID to do a workshop on women's economic empowerment with amazing women's rights groups from all over the continent who were convening and giving their expertise. And this amazing woman, Catherine Ida, who's the only deaf woman lawyer in Nigeria right now, was at that workshop, and she challenged us. She helped teach the whole room some Nigerian and American Sign Language signs. She pushed the envelope on, what could we do to support economic empowerment of women with disabilities as well. And then personally to us at FHI 360, she said, I don't see you doing enough in some of your international programs. And I really want you to leave this powerful conference that we had and go back and commit to this. And, it was a call to action. We said yes to her. She followed up with us and she, kept asking us, what are you doing? And that really instigated us. So we came back, we reflected a lot. And what we did is build out a 6-month task force on disability inclusion. That task force helped to create an internship. So we were smart enough and thankful enough for working with Gallaudet University to find Habtamu Buli, who came in as a disability inclusion intern. We also learned a lot from other organizations like Chemonics, Gallaudet, Mobility International, USA, the Excellence in Development Disability Inclusion Network, Wild Women who are throughout the country, women in leadership with disabilities, who challenged us, taught us, have helped us on the journey. So that task force identified where are our assets that maybe we didn't know about in a large 5,000 person organization that we had. What can we learn from that's already working, and where can it be adapted other places in the organization? And then we also identified gaps and really realized that we had a lot to learn on disability inclusion in international programs. And that was something we wanted to address. So from that, we were smart enough to hire Habtamu Buli full-time as our new disability inclusion technical officer. Not new anymore, he's been in that role for a year now, and also to build a lot of resources. Booley created the Disability Inclusion Toolkit for our organization, a series of trainings, brown bags, ongoing engagement with our Jessie champions around the world, some of whom are also disability inclusion experts, a lot of sharing across the organization. This has really opened us up, and as well as ASL classes. I've been a proud student of for the last 3 cohort groups, and over 45 of us at the organization have been learning ASL with Booley's help. This has made a tremendous difference in our organization, and we're excited to continue to grow.
And now some areas where we want to continue to learn and to grow in this work that we're doing. We want to identify and hire more interns and staff with disabilities, and look at promising recruitment, hiring, onboarding, training, support, and advancement practices. We will be continuing to grow our new disability inclusion community of practice, as well as partnering with more disabled person organizations and other disability-focused coalitions and networks. We also want to continue to provide and even to grow in disability-focused reasonable accommodations resources for our staff, for staff with disabilities that are both apparent and non-apparent, those that come from all backgrounds and all disabilities. We're so excited about FHI 360's work that we're doing to support diversity, equity, inclusion, and the important ways that disability inclusion fits into all of this work that we're doing here. So, in final thoughts, we want to say a big congratulations to Madre. And again, thank you to Interaction. And to really everyone who was involved. Big thanks from us.
Madre has made significant strides moving disability inclusion from paper to practice. They've integrated disability lens throughout all programs in operation and built the same understanding in funders, donors, and local partners. The organization has also assured a greater focus on accessibility of its workplace and communications, and ensured reasonable accommodation for people with disabilities at workshops, events, whether here in the US or abroad. Madre has also worked with disabled women's organizations, helping women with disabilities to increase their access to policy spaces and centers of power, giving them tools to advocate for themselves and their community. Interaction congratulates Ifat Suskind, Madre's Executive Director.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. I am really thrilled to be here today. My name is Ifat Suskind, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm the Executive Director at Madre. We're an international women's human rights organization and a women's fund that partners with community-based, women-led organizations on the front lines of war and climate breakdown. We work in solidarity with the disability rights movement and promote disability inclusion as fundamental to our values and our principles, and as core to our mission to advance the rights of women, girls, and marginalized communities across the globe. I am really honored and grateful that Madre, along with FHI 360, has the distinction of being a recipient of Interaction's Disability Inclusion Award. It's such a significant milestone for us in our journey toward disability justice, and it's a really welcome opportunity for us to celebrate the efforts we've made to ensure that disability justice is not just a nice-to-have phrase on paper, but a living, breathing practice that's really woven into our daily work, our values, our operations. As a feminist organization working in solidarity with women in the Global South, Madre has always had a commitment to intersectionality. But for intersectionality to be a true living framework, it has to be inclusive. So in 2018, we began a partnership with Mobility International USA, better known as MIUSA, to further develop our own awareness of disability rights and increase the inclusion, participation, and leadership of people with disabilities at all levels of our work. We've set out to meaningfully change the status quo for the inclusion of people with disabilities in our organization and in the programming Madre supports with our local partners around the world. Our aim was not only to support disabled people's organizations or to provide needed services to people with disabilities. We wanted to really improve our own work, recognizing that we were operating at a deficit without a clear disability justice lens. And we wanted to strengthen the global women's rights and peace and climate justice movements where we work by ensuring that these movement spaces can benefit from the participation and leadership of people with disabilities who offer such critical ideas and models and movement strategies. Since we began this process in 2018, Madre has operationalized a disability rights grant-making portfolio. We've dispersed a little over $400,000 in grants to advance disability justice, most of these grants to small women and girl-led groups working in contexts of armed conflict and environmental disaster. And these resources have enabled our partners to make their organizations more accessible, more equitable, so that people with disabilities can actively participate and lead. And to do this work effectively, we've had to adjust and redesign our grant-making practices to better address our partners' many and wide-ranging needs and abilities. So just for example, when we issued a call for funding proposals through our Viva Girls initiative, where girls and young women are running their own organizations, we accepted applications in multiple formats, such as audio and video recordings to extend access to both hearing and visually impaired applicants, which we hadn't always done. Similarly, in our legal advocacy and movement building work, we've strengthened the understanding that inclusion of people with disabilities is fundamental to winning just and lasting social change, not just for people with disabilities, but for all people. We've built out inclusive human rights advocacy strategies and increased access of women and girls with disabilities to policy spaces and centers of power, from local village councils to the UN Security Council. In this way, we've worked to ensure that policy platforms, legal protections, peace processes are inclusive of and responsive to the priorities of women with disabilities. And through our movement building efforts, we've positioned women and girls with disabilities as sources of solutions and as leaders for one another and for partners without disabilities. In this way, we've worked to build cross-movement solidarity and power to create change from the local to the global. We've also made significant strides in advancing disability inclusion within our own organizational culture and practices. So, for instance, our communications team works to ensure that all of Madre's products and platforms are accessible, and our digital outreach is intentional about meeting basic accessibility standards. I want to take just a moment now to share a quick story of one of Madre's partners that to me really illustrates precisely why building a disability justice lens is so incredibly important, even life-changing. The Nawa for Culture and Arts Association, which is one of our partner organizations in Palestine, needed to fill a significant gap in support services, including psychosocial support for children whose trauma from living under Israeli military occupation often goes undetected. Through Nawa activities, children like 9-year-old Obeida Fatinar and hundreds of others obtain the knowledge to succeed in school and the confidence to thrive in their lives. With support from Madre, Nawa was able to cultivate more inclusive programs to meet the needs of children with a range of disabilities, including intellectual, learning, hearing, visual, physical, and speech disabilities, among others. As Obeida told us, I can play, participate, and learn as other children in my community. I no longer need to hide myself now, is what he said. I can play and learn without borders. Obeida's story is just one of the many I've encountered at Madre that highlight why institutionalizing a disability justice lens in all aspects of our work is not only necessary, it needs to be non-negotiable. Looking forward, Madre plans to continue to grow its partnership and programming with disabled women and girls organizations. And we hope that with humility, we can be a model to other organizations, to our grantee partners, our funders, policymakers, for how to be more intentional about disability inclusion. So thank you again, Interaction, for this award. It means so much to be able to be recognized by you as we move together on the path towards disability justice.
Congratulations to FHI 360 and Madre. We look forward to learning from your organization's steps taken towards disability inclusion. The Interaction Humanitarian Award recognizes an individual or organization for extraordinary contributions of the humanitarian sector in the past year. Because the context of 2020 and the unprecedented number of nominations, we have selected 4 humanitarian workers spanning the globe. Each has demonstrated an extreme commitment to leading and responding selflessly to the COVID-19 pandemic in the communities they serve, often in conflicts-ravaged settings. The 4 awardees are Dr. Nebras Kaleb, Health Program Manager for International Medicorps in Yemen. Elsa Lourdes, Director of the Santa Barbara Area Development Association in Honduras and a partner of Child Fund. Maman Yakuba, Environmental Health Coordinator at the IRC in Burkina Faso. And Ratan Kumer Poder, Homes and Community Advisor for Caritas Bangladesh. Defying gender and societal stereotypes, Dr. Nebras Kaleb is a community leader who has inspired women across Yemen to educate themselves and their families on how to stop the spread of COVID-19. In late 2019, when Dr. Kaleb read about a SARS-like virus that was spreading in China, she knew that it would soon come to Yemen. Drawing on her experience in fighting the H1N1 flu virus, she held training sessions for her colleagues on proper prevention measures, including the wearing of masks and protective equipment. When Santa Barbara, Honduras was hit hard by hurricanes Eta and Iota, Elsa Lourdes immediately organized her staff and volunteers to bring needed food, water, clothing, and other urgently needed items to families who had lost nearly everything. They continue to organize relief activities in extremely challenging contexts, with thousands of people lodged in inadequate temporary shelters, no running water or electric power, children lost or separated, and pervasive COVID-19 infection risks. Following the initial distribution, Elsa mobilized teams to reach more than 30,000 families in Santa Barbara, many of them living in precarious situation. Maman Yakuba was part of an IRC emergency team that responded to a number of acute crises, including the onset of COVID-19 in Burkina Faso. As the environmental health coordinator, he took a collaborative approach and regularly went above and beyond to ensure that interventions were implemented in an appropriate, safe, and community-led. And last, but recognizing that home is the foundation of a family, Ratan Kumer Poder's approach to shelter as more than a roof and walls has made him a role model in the co-lead of the shelter sector in Caritas Bangladesh. During the pandemic, Ratan's efforts have had an extended impact, with many NGOs improving their emergency response capability in challenging contexts. When the international experts left the country or could not return due to the pandemic, Ratan was instrumental in maintaining the relationships needed that resulted in a well-coordinated response to have some 860,000 people safe and living in dignified homes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank Interaction for this award. It is an honor to be chosen for among so many brave and committed humanitarian workers. I would also like to thank International Medical Corps for supporting my development as a doctor and humanitarian. I was working for a Yemeni non-profit group focusing on helping vulnerable women and children. When I first heard about an opportunity to join the International Medical Corps, I was so excited when they offered me a job in Sana'a, the city where I grew up. I said at the time, March 2014, that by working for a large international non-profit with years of experience and resources, I would be able to have a more significant impact and that it would change my life, and it has. The work has been rewarding and challenges, especially now with the impact of the pandemic. Yemen is facing many challenges, including poverty, disease, hunger, and civil war. With supporting donor and wonderful team of colleagues, I really believe we are making a difference. And I am grateful that we are people outside of Yemen who are investing in our future. Dr. Nebras, International Medical Corps, Yemen. Thank you.
Mi nombre es Elsa Lourdes Díaz, directora ejecutiva de la DASPA. He trabajado durante 7 años con la organización no gubernamental que trabaja en el área de Santa Bárbara en más de 14 municipios y que de una u otra manera acompaña los sueños de los niños y de las niñas, sobre todo de los jóvenes, y también acompañando a nuestras familias más vulnerables con todas las gestiones que se realizaron, con todas las donaciones adicionales que llegaron para poder acompañar a las familias afectadas. Llegamos a más de 38,000 personas de todo el departamento de Santa Bárbara. Vimos también el buen corazón de gente del extranjero, inclusive de la misma Santa Bárbara, que pudo también volcarse a poder colaborar y ayudar. Estoy honrada de poder recibir este premio que otorga Interaction, ¿verdad? Y que de una u otra manera reconoce el trabajo, ¿verdad?, que hemos realizado y pues que no me lo adjudico personalmente, sino que es un esfuerzo de muchas personas que también me han acompañado en este proceso. Sabemos pues que esto nos compromete a poder seguir colaborando y apoyando a las familias más necesitadas. Invito no solo a las personas de nuestro país, sino del extranjero también, para que también reconozcan que hay personas y que hay organizaciones y que hay muy buena voluntad en los hondureños para poder salir adelante. Así es que muchas gracias, porque sabemos que todos podemos colaborar de una u otra manera.
Hi all, my name is Mamani Yakuba from Niger, humanitarian worker, WASH and IPC specialist. First of all, I would like to thank a lot Jackie McLeod, our emergency country director for IRC in Burkina Faso, who has proposed our work on mitigating COVID-19 to secure our staff and our client or beneficiaries. And then I would like to thank also Interaction, because this initiative motivates us to do more in the field and to address the response to at the community level. And at the end, I dedicate this prize or this award to my family and to all humanitarian colleagues for their hard work, their impressive work, despite some challenging contexts, some challenging situations such as COVID-19. So thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
This is a great honor for me to receive this humanitarian award from Interaction for work we do through Caritas Bangladesh, supported by Catholic Relief Services and our partners. We are honored to serve people displaced by the natural disasters and crises, especially who have lost their homes. I remember people were suffering and distressed, then seeing their smiling faces after solving their problems together. These achievements were only possible through collaboration with wider Caritas team, partners, donors, and communities we serve to build safe and dignified homes. Thank you to our partners, including CRS colleagues who have accompanied us for years, and Government of Bangladesh and shelter sector actors for their wholehearted cooperation during my 36 years service. May God bless all of us.
My heartfelt congratulations to all 4, and thank you for your work as humanitarians. Each year, Interaction hosts a photo contest to highlight humanitarian and development work around the globe. We invite photographers to submit their most powerful work that illustrate innovative, effective, and inspiring efforts of our sector. After reviewing hundreds of photos submitted, our congratulations go to first place winner, Will Baxter, for his photo cooking demonstration. Second place runner-up, Sandipani Chattopadhyay for his photo, Partnership for Existence. Third place runner-up, Louise Lielsen for his photo, Freedom. Thank you also to the members of the judging panel, Saran Kim, Stephen Riesenover, Kia Taylor, and Sarah Baker. Congratulations to you all and all our winners. I hope that you're enjoying Forum 2.1, and I look forward to seeing you at some point in one of our sessions. Thank you.